The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
Okay, let's go.
Only get outraged when one side's babies are killed. Then your moral compass is broken and your humanity is broken. And therefore, in your quiet moments alone, all of us everywhere on planet Earth need to really ask ourselves, do I aspire to be human, or am I swept up in the enticing and delicious world of hatred? This is not a phenomenon unique to Israel or Gaza. This is everywhere on our planet. I understand that hatred of the other, whoever we decide that other is seductive, sensuous, and most importantly, it's easy. Hatred is easy. But hatred is not actually helpful, nor is it constructive.
Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. And again, sorry for the delay today getting this out. So that was a lady named Rachel Goldberg. She is a mother of one of the hostages. Her son is still being kept hostage, and she gave that as part of a speech that she gave, probably a couple weeks ago, but someone sent it to me last night actually. And I wanted to start out with that because I'm not going to lie, I had a little bit of a tough night last night. It was the first night, maybe ever since this entire thing started, that, God, it really affected me. And it was because I had a friend send a variety of things that I guess took place yesterday in northern Gaza and southern Gaza. And this is going to be a little bit graphic, but there were a couple videos where, they were just, and I'm sorry about this, but I think it's important to say this. They were like picking body parts, arms and legs. And it was real. It was real. This is not AI generated. You can actually see them on my Instagram story. I actually did a story yesterday. I'm going to play the CNN clips, but unfortunately, fortunately, the graphic part of the videos, which I kind of interspersed with the CNN interview, I tried to tell a story with it. I really did. I tried to tell a story with it, and I think I'll end up creating a story highlight in Instagram, and that way it can stay there. Because as you know, these stories only live for 24 hours on Instagram and Facebook. Anyway, between that and then between listening to, someone like this mother at the beginning of this episode who, has the heart, even though her son is being held hostage, which I hope her son gets home safely to her very soon. I am hoping that happens. I'm hoping all the hostages are released. But, the humanity of this situation, gosh, if it doesn't affect you, again, and this really does go on to both sides. Whatever took place October 7th, if that doesn't affect you, whatever has taken place since October 7th, tomorrow will be 60 days of this. If that doesn't affect you, I don't know, you are broken. You are broken. Like if you can't step outside of your, take a side, that's fine. That's totally fine. If your feelings are that strong, or like I've talked about before, you've got skin in the game or something, I understand that. Take a side and that's fine. But even when you take a side, you can still have humanity. You can still have empathy toward other human beings. There were videos yesterday in southern Gaza, which now everyone was supposed to move down there, and we'll talk about that in a second. But, you have a 6-year-old girl, and you have a 6-year-old girl in the middle of a rubble pile, like crying her eyes out because she can't find her dad. And then her dad is probably dead, probably 50 feet away from her and dead. I mean, if that stuff doesn't affect you, it doesn't matter what side it is, what color of skin that person has, what religion that person is. That's a child that is just doesn't understand what's going on. And then when you take in the full scope of these videos and realize, they are completely decimating the entire Gaza Strip. It's going to be gone. By the time this is all said and done, I don't think there will be one building standing. That entire, I don't even think it's that big. It's the size of Washington, D.C., I think. I don't even think it's the size of Manhattan. It's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. I mean, northern Gaza is already pretty much gone. They said 60% of the housing, the buildings are either collapsed or uninhabitable anymore. And then now they're moving into southern Gaza. So anyway, I wanted to start out on that. I really was affected last night. It affected me so much I couldn't even record this. I really couldn't. I started to and I don't know, I just got incredibly emotional and I started kind of going in a little bit of directions I didn't really want to go into because again, I am trying to look at this from a 30,000 foot humanity standpoint, and I really am. And then ironically, it was like, this is why I do believe in something out there. It was like at the hardest time last night. It was, and I'm not even going to lie, it was about 12:30 at night. All of a sudden I got that clip from that mom, and it was from somebody that lives in another country. And so it was like 8 a.m. their time. And I don't know, it kind of calmed me a little bit because I was like, man, if this mom can sort of embrace this attitude, and again, she's talking about humanity and she's talking about it in a collective, by the way. She's not talking about it from one side. She's talking about it collectively. So I thought to myself, wow, that is an incredibly strong woman who, can really rise above what's going on. And she does have skin in the game. Her son is being held hostage. If she can do that, that kind of gave me strength. So anyway, let's start out. I do want to play the CNN clip yesterday. That was really a big part of this. And, it's been going around. So give the first minute a listen.
I think it will be seen that the IDF really has done everything that is humanly possible to try to safeguard innocent civilians.
It's very hard to believe that, especially on a day when one of our producers lost 9 members of his family who are not members of Hamas, not members of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, not members of any group, just 9 people just trying to live their lives.
So really quick, so this is Jake Tapper from CNN. And by the way, Jake is Jewish, okay? And I guess yesterday as part of that, and I think it was part of the videos I saw, one of the producers of CNN lost 9 members of his family during that bombing. So again, I mean, just think about that. Seriously, right now, think about the 9 closest people to you in your family and think about losing all 9 of them at once. My dad passed away in 2015. I'm not even kidding. Probably took me 2 years to fully come to peace with that. 2 years. And that was my dad. And my dad was 84 and lived an amazing life, and it wasn't tragic. Now imagine losing 9 members of your family. 4 of them were children. I mean, how do you go on from that?
First of all, I extend my sorrow to him and my sympathies. But if I saw your report correctly, and please correct me if I say something wrong, that happened in northern Gaza?
And by the way, the gentleman being interviewed is a gentleman named Mark Regev, and he's one of the main spokespeople now as part of the Netanyahu regime.
In Gaza City, where a month ago we already asked all the civilians to leave. And most of them did. If there was like 1,200,000 people there was only a couple of tens of thousands left.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but, again, he said, a month ago, we asked all the civilians to leave, and then this is amazing. 1.2 million civilians were displaced a month ago. So we asked them all to leave, and it looks like they've all left. Now, where they went, who the heck knows? What they're living in, who knows? How do you move 1.2 million people from the north to the south to what? And he's going to get into that in a minute.
And one has to ask, yes, they had ample opportunity to leave. I don't know what happened. I don't have the specific circumstances. I know there's deadly combat going on now in the north, still between these IDF and Hamas terrorists, yes? And we don't want to see anyone caught up in the crossfire, but why didn't they heed the advice and leave the area?
You can't blame them. There's now
I don't blame them.
But you can't. There's fighting in the south now. I've been asking this since October 7th. Where are these people supposed to go?
If you haven't seen this video, it's worth watching. You know, Jake Tapper, again, Jake is a Jewish American. I mean, you could see the pain in his face. It was actually very powerful. You could see the pain in his face, especially when he said, where are these people supposed to go?
At the beginning, it was easier because the fighting was concentrated in the north and we just asked people to move south. But now we're being more specific because it is more complicated in the south. We've actually designated areas in the south which are safer areas, which are especially, there's a number of them. We've shared the maps with the United States. It's been shared also with the UN and the other humanitarian organizations. Listen, we have to hit Hamas in Khan Yunis. They've got a strong military infrastructure there. They've got a network of tunnels. If we want to destroy Hamas's military machine, and we have to act in the south as well.
So basically now the same playbook that was enacted in the north is being enacted in the south, and that's now where all the people are.
As the ground operation starts, I can assure you that the escape routes, the humanitarian corridors that will allow civilians to get out of harm's way will still be there.
All right, I'm going to leave that story there for now. I'm going to shift gears to something else. And, you know, this is interesting, this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, as we talked about yesterday, where I played the clip of Senator Marsha Blackburn basically subpoenaing the flight logs for his plane. It's starting to rear its head a little more. So this was RFK Jr., one half of the great debate that never debated, on Jesse Waters on Fox yesterday, and I really feel like Jesse Waters set him up for this.
You weren't ever on Jeffrey Epstein's jet, were you?
I was on Jeffrey Epstein's jet 2 times. I was on it in 1993, and I was on it and I went to Florida with my wife and 2 children to visit my mom over Easter. My wife had some kind of relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, and they offered us a ride to Palm Beach. So I went then, and on another occasion, I flew again with my family, with I think 4 of my children, and Mary, my wife, to Rapid City, South Dakota, to go fossil hunting for a weekend, but otherwise I was never on his jet alone. I've been very open about this from the beginning. This was in '93, so it was 30 years ago. It was before anybody knew about Jeffrey Epstein's his nefarious issues, and I agree with you that all of this information should be released. And we should get real answers on what happened to Jeffrey Epstein and any of the high-level political people that he was involved with.
Now, again, obviously he didn't go to or use the Lolita Express to go to the island, but that was not a good look. And what ended up happening from that is exactly, ironically, I got to give my buddy Howard Cole credit, because he used an analogy when it came to Gavin Newsom and the DeSantis debate. We were talking about that, and he said, I'm with you. It would be refreshing for him, or any politician for that matter, to say, oh yeah, you know what, this did happen in San Francisco, and yes, we did, clean it up because Xi Jinping was coming, but we're also, that's been something we've wanted to do. And, we're going to get on the right track with all this. And he's like, if they say that, they're going to get it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. And so the media will twist that in a way to fit their narrative. And that's exactly what happened with RFK Jr. going on Jesse Waters last night. Front page of the New York Post today had a big picture of Jeffrey Epstein hugging Ghislaine Maxwell, and then on the other side was RFK Jr. And the bold title was, RFK Jr. admits he twice flew on Jeffrey Epstein's jet and wife had relationship, quote unquote, with Ghislaine Maxwell. So think about the power of that and think about the shaped narrative from that. I mean, it doesn't really get into what Jeffrey Epstein talked about where, it looked like he basically was freeloading rides, RFK Jr. and his wife. I mean, that's kind of what he was doing. And this is 1993. Again, doesn't excuse any of it. I'm sure Jeffrey Epstein was the same scumbag in 1993 as he was in 2003. But again, there's a nuance to this. But you've got the Post on the front page literally just smacking their picture next to each other and saying RFK Jr. admits he flew twice on Epstein's jet. So anyway, that is definitely something that is a developing story. Like I talked about yesterday, I do think, I don't know, it seems like the heat's getting turned up on that. I think there's going to be some names that come out, but they're not going to be the big names. They're going to be the sacrificed names. We shall see on that. Anyway, all right, listen, this was a little heavy today. I know it was. It was a little heavy for me. But you know what? It's real, man. It's real. And gosh, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, why do I care so much? But I do. And you know what? That's just who I am. And it is what it is. But I don't even know what else to say on that. Anyway, all right. In order to bring a little good energy to this, I'm going to end this with a clip from the Family Guy, which I do not know on God's green earth how the Family Guy, The Simpsons to an extent, and South Park, but definitely the Family Guy and South Park. I do not know how these shows have not been canceled, but I am very glad they haven't. All right, call a spade a spade. Enjoy the Family Guy as they visit Ground Zero in New York City.
Ground Zero. So this is where the first guy got AIDS.
Peter, this is the site of the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Oh, so Saddam Hussein did this?
No.
The Iraqi army?
No.
Some guys from Iraq?
No.
That one lady who visited Iraq that one time?
No, Peter, Iraq had nothing to do with this. It was a bunch of Saudi Arabians, Lebanese, and Egyptians financed by a Saudi Arabian guy living in Afghanistan and sheltered by Pakistanis.
So you're saying we need to invade Iran?
This episode was brought to you by Boost Liquid Vitamins. Wake up, take your Boost, start your day. Drink your vitamins, build your immune system with Boost. Available on Boost.com.